I welcome the openness and willingness of the state to work on structural reform processes with technical support by my office, including the initiative that led to the adoption of Resolution 54/30 by this Council. Honduras remains deeply challenged by several long-standing structural obstacles to the enjoyment of human rights. Persistent violence, including gender violence, land conflicts and impunity, are emblematic of some of the country's most acute human rights issues. While I note a reduction in homicides, violence and insecurity remain deep-rooted and commonplace, particularly impacting women and LGBTQ+ people. Last year, 380 violent deaths of women were registered, as well as 47 murders of LGBTQ+ people. No specialized protocols exist for criminal justice institutions to address the high rates of violence against women. For the state to be able to ensure a safe environment, free from organized crime, it requires the resources and policies necessary to address the massive inequalities in the country, the illicit financial flows, taxation and corruption. It is also important to develop a coherent national security policy that is grounded in human rights, that incorporates prevention measures. I am concerned about the increased militarization of public security and the penitentiary system. To take one example, following the tragic attack in the women's prison in Tamara in June, where 46 female prisoners were killed, the government returned the administration of the prison system to the military police. We have since received reports that some of the military police's actions may amount to ill treatment. Additionally, I am concerned about the ongoing state of emergency that has been in place for over 15 months and which grants the national police and military police powers to implement detentions and searches without judicial orders. Throughout Honduras, conflicts linked to land, territory and natural resources persist, with indigenous peoples, Afro-Honduran peoples and peasants the most acutely impacted by violence, land grabs and evictions. I'm very troubled by the fact that Honduras remains one of the world's most dangerous countries for people who defend land, territory and the environment. Attacks against human rights defenders and journalists increased last year, with some 561 people victims of aggression. At least 15 human rights defenders and 2 journalists were killed. My office strongly encourages the authorities to strengthen the national protection mechanism and to put in place all institutional measures needed to protect human rights defenders. I welcome the repeal and amendment of decrees by the Congress, part of the so-called Impunity Act, as well as the willingness of the government to address corruption. However, high levels of corruption and impunity continue to deplete the resources available to the country, as well as to erode trust in public institutions. I urge Honduras to take steps to ensure transparency and accountability, including to strengthen the judiciary, the Office of the Prosecutor and other key national anti-corruption institutions, and to ensure their independence. In this regard, I welcome the recent election of the General Prosecutor and a deputy, as well as other judicial authorities by the National Congress. More generally, I welcome the new process for the election of the new Supreme Court of Justice and its emphasis on transparency, accountability and gender parity. This is an important step in efforts to strengthen rule of law and access to justice in Honduras. My office continues to urge progress in investigation into serious violations of human rights that were committed in the 1980s, during the 2009 coup, and in the context of the 2017 post-electoral crisis. I also welcome the recently approved landmark bill that protects natural resources and protected areas in favor of the rights of the affected communities. This law, together with the executive decree to guarantee the ancestral and property rights of Garifuna people, are crucial to advance the enjoyment of rights for the most vulnerable.